Earlier this year, Mora County in northern New Mexico banned hydraulic fracturing, or fracking as it's known. It was one of the first communities nationally to ban the practice, which opponents contend pollutes groundwater, amongst other things. Now, this ban prompted a lawsuit by the Independent Petroleum Association and a couple others. Even those who support the fracking ban are concerned the ordinance won't stand up to a legal challenge that will take up some scarce resources in Mora County. But meanwhile, several communities in Colorado have also passed bans, and even drill-happy Wyoming is implementing requirements to test water wells near drilling sites. Now, Laura, interesting reading about what's happening in Mora County on this, but as an attorney, I have to ask you this. Isn't there some value of having a suit actually happen to get this thing rolling? Meaning you lay it down, someone's going to counter it, there's no doubt, but someone has to get the process going, and it's a risk.
Sure.
It's certainly a risk to Mora County. Is this a good risk in your view?
Well, I think it's a risk on both sides. I
Okay.
mean, both sides have something to gain or lose in this situation. And I think you're absolutely right. If you have an actual case that's being tested, at least it's going to establish some sort of a precedent. And you're going to have some evidence that's going to be admitted. There'll be some testimony. You'll get some things on the record, which is very different from doing a rulemaking, for example, or certainly a legislative hearing. So at least it establishes something in, in the law that can be looked at and pointed to in the future. So I think both sides have something to gain or lose here.
Who on the pro drilling side, of folks who want to drill, what do they lose?
Well, one of the things that happens all the time is people who are pro the drilling practice will argue that this has been happening actually for a long time. This is something that's been around. This is not new, but they don't often, in my opinion, fully disclose what those chemicals are that they're actually pumping into the ground. There's proprietary concerns. There's all kinds of questions and issues on a technical level when it gets into the public discussion. When you're in court, that becomes, I think, a different setting where really you need to have experts, you have to have testimony, you need to have evidence. So they could potentially lose in having to fully disclose what their practices look like. That may not be something they want to do. And now for Mora County, of course, it's the cost of litigation. The cost is huge, potentially, but it also, I think, will raise a lot of attention on this issue and bring a lot of people who, statewide and nationally, who are against fracking could potentially come to their aid.
Partly, Robin, this story is nationally. There's others from other places have come in to guide folks who do not want to have fracking, and that happens. But some folks are seeing it as a bit of a heartburn there. What's your sense of that? Are these folks being led by the nose here, or is just some do-gooders who want to do good?
Probably a little bit of both, maybe, but that's, I think that point that you bring up, that you've got outside groups coming in, is a good one, because on the left you hear lots of complaints about ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, and they've got a conservative agenda, and they've been harshly criticized by people on the left for running up dummy bills, bills that go to various state legislatures that are in favor of something, and the people at ALEC supposedly give them a bill that acts as a dummy bill, where you can stick in the various wording. Well, this is exactly what's happening on the left here in the Mora County thing, because you've got a Pennsylvania group, Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund, that basically took one of the commissioners by the hand and said, let's do this, and here's how we can proceed on this. So,
as well as other areas, they're doing this in other places as well.
Right. But the big question for the people of Mora County is that are you going to be the test case dummy in this case?
Right. Marisa, it seems to me there's a good proactive step being taken here. Meaning, if you're in Mora County, you don't want to wait until there's a problem before you act. But it's problematic sometimes to act before there's a problem. It's a very strange thing, especially with energy exploration. It's a difficulty. I just have to think these folks are just trying to take things in their own hands. So your sense of this, whether the help's from outside or not, are they on solid footing here going forward, or is there a missing piece for folks who want to just protect groundwater up there? Is there something else they need to do?
So I think we're seeing overall, and fairly recently in New Mexico, a lot of national issues coming to play in smaller municipal stages. So we just saw it with the abortion vote, for instance, in Albuquerque. So I had the same question. I was like, is fracking a big concern for Mora County? And I looked at maps of where the future of fracking is going to be, and there's a little bit, it looks like, in southeast southeastern New Mexico, where Mora County is more toward the north. So I don't know that they're in necessarily an immediate threat of there being fracking in the region. Although some of the articles say that the entire population in Mora County, or not the entire, a lot of population in Mora County is opposed to oil and gas drilling. That's different than fracking. And there were some sources in some stories citing that there might be more effective and more inexpensive ways to actually prevent oil and gas drilling in their county if that's what they're looking to do. So this situation really seems to set up Mora as a test case for the country, for the nation, and I think that's what they're looking at.
If I
Please,
may
go
jump
ahead.
in,
Absolutely.
I think what you're just a preview for this potential case will be, or trial is going to be based on private property rights, because you've got people who have the private property contracts that allow them to have do a hydraulic fracturing there within that county. I think that's probably going to be the key part of this case, is the private property argument versus the community property argument.
Interesting point, Tom, that Rob's making there, because in the piece that Stacy Matlock did, if I recall this, there's about 30 folks have already made deals out there, and they made mention in the piece that about 14, 15 had Hispanic surnames. Not quite sure why that was quite, but I think you get my drift on that. So something is happening. Some people are saying yes. That's Rob's point. Some people are saying yes, and they're private property owners. So how does this all play out? Because, you get one county away, plenty of this going on. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's
I'm not
tricky.
sure how much hydraulic fracturing is actually taking place in northeastern New Mexico. Northeastern New Mexico is not, the wealthiest part of the state. It's an area that's really known for its classic beauty and great people. But when you get into the future economic development, does the community really want to say, okay, we don't want any more economic development, or we want to be very selective about it? And so, you have outside interests coming in, on both sides, basically saying, here's what we want to be able to accomplish, but what do the people of Mora County want to accomplish?
Is it your sense that enough folks have spoken up there? I mean, obviously no one's done polling and all that kind of thing, but it seems like, well, I hear a lot of folks are not into this. It's not quite scientific quite yet in my gut.
Well, Mora County is not that big. I mean, you can pretty much, go door to door and get a 100% scientific sample on that one. But, I don't know. I mean, our perception survey, shows that oil and gas perceptions of the industry are not that favorable in the northeastern part of the state when compared to other parts. But, when you look in the northwest and the southeastern, sure, there's a lot of economic activity there, so there's a lot of favorability. But, there's so many different questions. I want to see this court case play out, but then on the other side, I really don't want to, because I know that it will devastate Mora County.
Yeah, interesting. Just ahead, we look at jobs in the state's economy, and the line goes on the clock.